Hey, Stacey David here with the Tales of a Gearhead podcast. Now, what is this? Well, it's a podcast that covers everything automotive, everything mechanical, everything that's just cool about the automotive lifestyle. And since that's just about everything, you're going to love it.
Today's podcast comes to you from Redline Detection.
Let's get rolling. All right, I got a great surprise for you today. I have a really good friend of mine here. His name is Charley Strickland. And if you don't know who Charley Strickland is, well, you've probably seen his stuff around. Guy's been building chassis for NASCAR and drag racing for years. He's also the leading authority on Countach replicas. And he's also building this chassis that is going in this new M6 GT replica that we're getting ready to feature on the show. For those of you that don't know, the M6 GT was McLaren's first road car that Bruce put together in 1969. But you may know it more as the Coyote that was in the TV show Hardcastle and McCormick. So, Charley, welcome to the podcast. Let's talk some cars a little bit.
Thank you, my friend. Glad to be here.
You are a very interesting individual. I can't wait to introduce you to people that don't know you yet. All right, let's talk about how you got into cars, man. How did you get into building these replicas and the racing thing and this kind of stuff?
All the way back. Unlike most people in this, my family was not in it. I did not have three generations.
Yeah, sounds like me.
Yeah.
My dad was a cop.
But I did come from a family. My grandfather was a notable woodworker. My father had...
so craftsmanship is in the family.
Craftsmanship's in the family. That's what I'm trying to say. But I remember... It must have been in junior high.
Okay.
Cars had really not crossed my mind.
Really? Okay, junior high, yeah,
But
you're thinking about girls.
Junior high, yeah. At the shopping mall in town, they have a car on display.
Oh, boy.
In the shopping mall.
Okay, let me guess. What year is it?
It's late 60s, early 70s.
Okay, and there's a car in the shopping mall. I bet it's a Pantera.
No.
Okay.
No.
What was it?
No. But I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
What really caught my eye about that car was there was a little plaque on the dash that said, "Built with pride in Level Cross, North Carolina."
Level Cross, North Carolina? I don't know. What was it?
Richard Petty's car.
Okay.
And that plaque, that just fascinated me. And I think about that time I realized I was going to make chips fly instead of sawdust.
Okay. So this was one of Richard's race cars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so does that start the bug to get into racing?
Well.
That was already there, huh?
That and that Dennis Ledbetter and that SS 396 had Vicki Browning, and I knew that Vicki had a little sister named Julie, and
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
so I thought an SS 396 might be a real good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's kind of started it.
Okay. Now you were a driver. You went into driving a little bit.
I did drive
cars.
some. I put myself through college street racing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you ate good, and sometimes you had peanut butter, but I managed to do it.
Yeah.
68 Camaro primer gray that we called Wavy Gravy.
Okay.
But it was pretty quick.
Good.
3 clean shifts, and we'll eat good tonight.
Yeah. So how'd you get into building chassis?
I came up through racing the old typical way. Go-karts, local dirt track, so forth. I had what I thought was a pretty decent little fab shop in my backyard for building my personal stuff, which was circle track stuff at the time. We'd had some early success. We won 22 races in one season. We won 10 races in a row one time. We won the Oklahoma State Fair race, the Kansas State Fair race.
Yeah. So yeah, you
had
were
a
happening.
decent little spot. We were, yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's going great. A couple of friends of mine come to me, And say NHRA has started a class called Junior Dragster with your go-kart skills. And at the time, I'd left architecture. I wound up owning 5 commercial go-kart tracks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
So with your go-kart skills, with your race car skills, can you build us some junior dragsters?
Of
Wound up
course.
building 6 junior dragsters that winter.
Okay.
Said, yeah, that's a great idea. I wonder how I was going to spend the winter when you own go-kart tracks.
Yeah.
The next year, I went back to the go-kart tracks. That next fall, 3 of those 5 go-kart tracks were contracted on military bases. They were
Okay.
5-year contracts with 5-year options. I sold those go-kart tracks and said, y'all go do this. I'm going to keep playing with race cars. This is kind of fun. And
Yeah.
I remember my first ad in National Dragster was like $900 for an ad, and my wife says, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Well, let's see what happens." Man, the phone started ringing and calls started coming in
Yeah.
from all over the nation, and all of a sudden I was in the race car building business, albeit junior dragsters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
But-
that's a lot better than go-karts, wasn't
Well,
it?
I also realized how unequipped what I thought was a very well equipped little race car shop in the backyard
Yeah.
was for any kind of commercial stuff.
Yeah.
But Fastlane Engineering was born and we were up and running.
Yeah.
Caught some what I call Forrest Gump breaks, which all of my life is true. I mean, all
it
my
has-
life's been Forrest Gump.
How many awards and titles and stuff did you win in drag racing?
7 championships.
7 championships. In what class?
Well, 1 as a team owner.
Yeah.
And that was in Super Comp, and then 5 more as chassis builders.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Hill, 1993 Top Fuel champion from my hometown, Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yeah.
Murph McKinney built his original cars, but the 499 car, the first car ever to run a 4-second quarter mile, I rebuilt that after the blowover in Pomona when the only thing left was the office in it. And then the World Championship car, I rebuilt it after the blowover at the Texas Motorplex when all that was left of it was the office.
Yeah.
So I'm going to claim
Okay.
all the way up to Top
No,
Fuel.
that's great. Okay, so then you went to NASCAR,
Well,
and you did some chassis for the NASCAR, correct?
Actually, I did. I was building the junior dragsters, and I get called into Eddie's Pennzoil hauler at the Texas Motorplex. And Pennzoil says to me, "What are you going to do?" I said, "What do you mean?" I'm just riding it, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just Forrest Gumping it along, and it's working out pretty good
You
for
keep
me.
saying that, but
Well, true.
I tell you
It
what, your
is.
workmanship and stuff is stellar.
Yeah, but you stumble into stuff,
I
man.
know.
You can't go make that
You know,
happen.
Charlie's one of these aw shucks kind of guys, but there's a lot more going on. I remember the first time I met you, you know, because you kind of sound like Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm listening to you, and I'm like, okay, when I first met you, I go, this guy is a character because he's sitting here in a Hawaiian shirt and stuff. And if you've ever met Charlie, you know what I'm talking about. But then I'm looking at your chassis, and I'm listening to the things you're talking about, and I'm like, this guy's sharp, and the workmanship and the ability to build a chassis is phenomenal. It's top level. And so anyway, we'll get into that a little more. But okay, get back onto your story.
Well, all shucks. So yeah, I said, what are you going to do? And I said, yeah, I'm Forrest Gumping it.
Yeah.
They said, well, we want you to build and own a car in Super Comp,
Yeah.
and Miss Terry Kent's going to drive it, and we want you to do this. I said, okay. Well, you remember that $900 ad?
Yeah.
That turned into the center spread in
Yeah.
National Dragster.
Yeah.
And the center spread said every Super Comp car that we have ever built has won a championship.
Oh my gosh.
So I built a lot of drag cars at Fastlane Engineering. That company was sold in 2000. I went from there to pursue what I was more interested in circle track stuff. Went to NASCAR, have owned or leased cars in the Southwest Tour Series, the Busch East Series, the Busch West Series, the Truck Series, what I still call the Busch Series and always will be the Busch Series to me. And have made 53 starts, not as a driver, and some of that in leased stuff as opposed to actually owning the car.
Yeah, nice.
And also in the NASCAR Corona Series, the Cup Series in Mexico.
Yeah.
I did own that car, and we raced for 3 years down there.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to go through all this stuff is to give you guys an idea about Charley's credentials. You know, this guy is not just some guy in his backyard throwing together a chassis. Nothing wrong with that if you know what you're doing. But Charley has the track record to actually say he's done that. Now, the reason that's important is that we're getting ready to, and by the time this podcast airs, you may have already seen the car. We're getting ready to introduce a new replica that's hitting the market of the legendary McLaren M6 GT. And it's one of those cars that virtually everybody knows what they look like. Iconic car, the first street car that Bruce McLaren did. There was only 6 of them known to exist. Like I said, they did a replica back in the 80s on the TV show Hardcastle and McCormick, the one that was called the Coyote.
You know, we're always talking about tools. There is one tool that you really need and you don't know you need it. And that's the red line detection tool. Now, what this does, this basically uses smoke to find leaks in your weather stripping, in your intake, in your exhaust, anything that needs to not have an air leak or a water leak. Redline Detection has the machines to help you find that. Almost every shop has one of these, and boy, when you're trying to find a leak in an interior or a water leak around a windshield or something like that, man, these things come in handy. If you have a shop, they'll pay for themselves so quickly you won't believe it. All the OEMs use them. Just a great unit. So if you're looking for that tool that you didn't realize that you needed, check out Redline Detection. You will find all kinds of uses for one of their machines.
Let's talk about how this came about. People, you knew there was a Manta, which was a replica of the M6 GT, a loosely based replica. And then so you went back, got bodies from Marauder, which were actually accurate bodies. Let's go through this, how this thing came about.
I was approached by a group that wanted to reintroduce the Manta.
The Manta. And this is based on the fact that you're building all of these Countach replicas.
Yeah.
So you have a reputation of building a nice mid-engine car.
Yeah, they had contacted me about
no
just the
Volkswagen
chassis,
engines
but,
in the back of this stuff.
But,
Yeah.
you know, what they had the idea but didn't have a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
I said, that's interesting. And as I came to realize, that Manta was a pretty cool car.
Yeah, especially the Montage.
Yeah,
But it was VW powered. That was the problem.
Yeah, and a Corvair transaxle on the ones that were not.
Yeah, that's all people had. But anyway, so
yeah, back in the day, that's all they had. But I told them, okay, you need a body, you need a chassis, you need all the glass for it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do the chassis. I can show you where to get the other stuff, and most, if not all the other components, transaxle included, is kind of mail order bolt on.
Yeah.
So we started, and I became a little more fascinated as I learned the McLaren ties and how cool a car it was, and how it was a relatively simple car to put together, and in car terms at least simple. And we began to pursue that. I developed the chassis for it. Relied heavily on my Countach chassis or Lambo chassis for suspension geometry, construction technique, the aluminum monocoque techniques and so forth that I already knew.
So this car is using a complete aluminum monocoque.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a full aluminum tub.
Yep.
So it's super lightweight, super strong, super rigid.
Yeah, that chassis is under 200 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked it up the other day on the show. Of course, I had all the components off of it, but yeah, it's light. It's amazing how rigid and how strong they are.
But we began to prepare to offer a Manta kit, acquired Manta molds, and then started looking at those molds and saying, you know, the stuff that they tweaked on it needs to be untweaked. It needs to go back to a McLaren nose. It needs to get rid of
those funky pop-up headlight things.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
It needs to get rid of the Chevy truck tail lights. and as that started developing, I said to them, you know, you guys are going to an awful lot of trouble to turn a Manta back into a McLaren M6.
Yeah.
Why don't you just do a McLaren M6?
And that's wise, because you basically were building a replica out of a replica.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the original.
Yeah. And let's tweak it a little bit. Let's get a little bit of shoulder room, leg room, hip room in it.
Yes.
Let's get some headroom in it. We can work on that, but we're way better off starting with an M6 than trying to mess with a Manta.
Yes.
So,
and you have the McLaren legend that goes with it.
Yeah.
And actually, I misspoke earlier. There was only 4 of those made, not 6.
Well, that was another thing they brought up. They said, yeah, but the Manta, everybody is in love with a Manta, and that's what they bought. And I said, well, yeah, they bought it because they couldn't get a McLaren.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them a McLaren.
Yeah. And everybody always kind of, especially they had the M6, which was the open cockpit one that had that long nose and that cut-off back, which was kind of goofy looking. And then, of course, I think it was the Montage that went on to become, the Coyote.
Yeah. So,
which is the one people liked, but
there were various pieces and parts and various molds floating around. We've acquired and made and copied and splashed, and we now have a set of molds for an M6.
Okay, so who's making the body?
Dave Gossett at DeVicki.
Nice.
He is a long-time street rod body.
Yeah, he has like 32 bodies. And
he sells a 32 Ford. He sells a graffiti car a week.
Yeah, so he's doing a 32 5-window with what, a 3-inch chop?
Either chop, channeled, whichever way you want it.
Really?
Typically, his bread and butter is a roller with the doors hung and the windows working.
Nice. I'll need to check those out.
And he's got that 32, 33, 34, chopped, channeled, any combination thereof.
So kind of like the California Kid car, too. So he's got those are the nice ones.
Yeah, he's got a couple of acres of molds, but that's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
He also does all of my Lambo bodies for me.
Oh, okay.
But so I got them hooked up with Dave to do the bodies. My buddy ProGlass Bob at ProGlass. We've got all the molds for the glass now. And
Retroformance is building the chassis, correct?
Retroformance is building the chassis, yes. It is my chassis design. Retroformance is building the chassis, yes.
So if somebody wants to order one of these cars, do they go to Retroformance, or do they go to you, or both, or all of the above?
All of the above.
It all goes to the same place.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, you're offering this car, like a lot of people do, you're going to offer this in different levels, correct? So a guy can get just a basic frame and chassis, and then he can add a few little gewgaws and things, and air conditioning and that kind of stuff. Or what are the levels? Do you know yet? Because I've got the first prototype here. I'm sitting here looking at it.
Well, you're basically right, and there's packages.
Yes.
Once you have a body and chassis, then you get the brake package, the suspension package, and you add those packages. Now, you don't have to have, for instance, an air conditioning package, but those packages are available, and they are designed for the car.
And let me tell you guys, if you're interested in this car, you need an air conditioning package. If you've not been in a mid-engine car with that big windshield, that's like a big fishbowl. That thing, oh, man. It's like that SLC that we did for Fran a few years ago, man. It's like being in a fishbowl. Those cars get hot inside for the drivers.
You bring up a good point about something, though. On my Lambo replicas as well as these cars, when I went into this, I realized that there's supposedly a giant failure rate on completing a kit car.
There are, because our components are all not available. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, and it is a mechanics process, a fabrication process, as opposed to a mechanics process. Most people don't know the difference there.
Yes.
The fabricator builds the part, the mechanic bolts it on.
Yes.
Well, you get a typical executive that says, I think I've got a set of ratchets and some jack stands.
Yeah.
I think I'll build this car in the garage in my spare time. That'll be great fun.
Yeah.
And the first instruction says,
Make it look like the picture in the box.
take out your English wheel and make this set of louvers. Yeah.
You
can't
so
do that
right.
with a ratchet.
No, you are so right.
So-
and yeah.
What I have tried to do is turn these back into a mechanics project.
Yes.
So that you've got a fighting chance.
Now, the only drawback to that for a fabricator is that if they want to put their personal stink on the car, which a lot of us do, if you're a fabricator, it's great. You can do that. But if you are a mechanic sort of person wanting to be a fabricator and you get into a project like this, that can be very frustrating if you don't have those skills or the tools to do it.
It is also in that I'll be glad to help you on it, but I've got to help you on what I know how to build.
Yeah.
If you're off on your own,
Exactly.
I can't help you.
Yep. No.
But this car, I mean, all the bracketry is there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't have to do some fabricating. I'm not saying
Sure.
you got to drill some holes, something. But for the most part, I have changed the project back into a mail order bolt-on project.
Yeah.
As opposed to a fabrication project.
Yeah. And that will be huge for that component car market.
Yeah, and that's true, again,
Yeah.
whether we're talking about a Countach or a
Yeah.
McLaren or anything else
Yeah.
I do.
Because you're right. Most people that want to put a car like this together, they have probably a mid-level of skills. And most of it is mechanical skills. And they might be advanced enough to be able to handle all the plumbing and the air conditioning units and doing all the fuel injection and stuff like that. But they don't know how to build the brackets to hold those things and stuff.
Like,
so
you call Old Air Products or me,
Yeah.
and you tell them I need the Strickland Racing Inc. part number McLaren,
yeah,
and here is a unit with the drain valve turned the right way.
oh, that's so good.
with the
yeah.
hoses the right length,
Yeah,
and it bolts right up to that bracket right there, and you're done.
yeah. Now, of course, the big question people want to know is how much is it? How much is it right now? Tell me today. What is the price? And obviously, we just said that it comes in different packages,
Right.
different stages.
Right.
So the price, I always tell people, and the same thing is true if a guy's working on a Camaro
It
or
is.
whatever. If you come in, the nicer the nice, the higher the price.
Speed is expensive. How
Yeah,
fast you
speed
wanna
is
go?
expensive, all of those things. So you can build one of these, and tell me if you agree with this or not. I think this is a car, and this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about it. I think a guy can build this car around pretty much whatever budget he's got, as long as he realizes that his initial investment just to get a roller and chassis is going to be at least $30.
Mm-hmm.
And then, depending on how nice he wants to make it, it goes up from there.
I think that's very fair. There are people, that think they can build a car for $20,000. Well, here's the deal.
Not a mid-engine car.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
It takes $40,000+ to get all the pieces in a pile.
Yeah, I actually
That's
think
just
that's
all
light.
there is to it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a bargain right there.
yes, it is.
I'd say usually 40 to
that's
60.
what it costs to get the car. All the pieces. I don't care what you're building.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people call me all the time. How much is a Countach?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want the $10,000 wheels?
Yeah.
Or do you want the $200 wheels that
Countach
look
do you want it?
just like the $10,000 wheels?
Yeah.
Do you want the $300 cigarette lighter knob, or do you want the $10 cigarette lighter knob?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want, as we talked earlier, the Graziano $20,000 transaxle, or do you want a perfectly adequate 01E transaxle?
Yeah.
We already have $20,000+ worth of variable in this equation.
Yeah. Yeah, and those markets change all the time. So,
But any car can you build a Cobra for 40? Maybe, I don't know. But again, I don't care what you're building. It's at least 40 grand to get all the pieces in a pile.
oh my gosh, yeah. Especially if you're talking about, you're not even talking about paint yet.
No, but one cool thing about it is there's not a whole lot of pieces to this.
No.
It's pretty basic.
And the cool thing about this car is it's so cool.
Yeah, there's not $1,000 worth of weather stripping.
No.
You know, there's not $1,000 worth of little knick-knack everywhere you look stuff. It's
Which
pretty
adds up,
basic.
yeah. Well, Charlie, thanks for dropping by, man. We're looking forward to having you on the show and getting this car out and letting people see it. And I will have you back on the next time you're in town, man. So thank you.
Enjoyed it.
All right, that's our show for today, which means you need to get out there and start working on something. Spend some time turning wrenches. You might be surprised how much you like it. Make sure you check out our website, staceydavid.com, because we've got all kinds of new products and some other great stuff that you're just going to love. Also, make sure to check out our social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. Our social media is where you're going to find all of the bonus content, the giveaways, the contests, the trivia. We even have extra viewer projects that focus on what you are working on. Also, the new season of Gears will be on MAV TV, and YouTube will be the place that you can view all of your favorite Gears episodes, as well as the full project builds that follow the project from beginning to end. Make sure to check out our new Gears coffee cars. This is a unique blend of coffee and cool stickers to collect that will appeal to anyone.
But the most important thing is get out there and turn some wrenches yourself. Get a project, start working on it, and if you don't have tools, check out Cornwell. They can help you out there.
All right, that's all the announcements. We're all up to date. We'll see you next time.